Malignant. I've been meaning to make a review for this film for several days, but it's just been a little bit too hectic, so I haven't really had the time to sit down and do it. I'm doing that now. This movie came out, I don't know, well, it's date right there, September 10th. Really? Yeah, September 10th, okay. And it was a theatrical release, but also a release on HBO. So one night when I was doing an overnight shift, where I have to stay up all night at this clinic place and to kind of watch over things. So to pass the time, not only do I get some audiobook work done and all of that, some video editing and things like that, but I check out films. So in addition to, I was watching Iron Fist during one of my clinic stays. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this. I'm just kind of chattering. So the first movie that I ended up watching during one of those overnight stays was Malignant. And I went into this not expecting a lot, honestly, because I knew that the official critics had given it a pretty decent score, but I was hearing all of this mixed review stuff from regular audience folks, like myself. And I was like, oh, it's probably really sucky. But then some people on YouTube that I follow and have very similar taste in movies and likes and things like that, I was seeing that they really dug this film. So I went into it just kind of not sure. There were some people that liked it, some people that hated it. Critics liked it, but I always trust the critics. A lot of times I just can't. So I went into it with pretty much zero expectation. And it does start off, I remember seeing complaints about it. Well, it's like a B movie. I think Tyrone Magnus said it was like I can't remember the exact wording he said. I'll try to remember to put it up on the screen, but I thought the way he worded it was pretty interesting. And I see where he's coming from. It does start off a bit like, I don't know, sort of over dramatic and corny and sort of ridiculous. And you're like, oh, this is going to be one of those types of films. But, I'm forgetting as I start off watching it, oh yeah, this is a James Wan movie. It's not necessarily going to be something that's your typical sort of horror type of movie. There is a lot of that typical horror stuff in there just because you really can't escape it. It's horror, and pretty much all horror movies, for the most part, have these sort of formulaic, typical sort of things that happen, jump scares and, final shots that indicate it's not over. That sort of thing is what I'm talking about. But the movie starts off and I'm like, okay, well, how do you explain this? And what's going on? And who is Gabriel? And why is the electricity doing all this stuff? And blah, blah, blah. And, and then at some point in the film, I can't remember how far into the film, maybe it's like around the final act area when this big twist is revealed. And I'm really glad I went into it not knowing what the twist was, but to be honest, when this big twist was revealed, it didn't completely shock me because, and I'm going to be vague here because I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, even though I know that a lot of people, spoilers are already out and about, especially in certain reviews on YouTube, but I had recently read about someone in real life who supposedly had a similar-ish sort of thing going on with them. I'm being vague on purpose. Of course, it was not exactly the same. This is much more dramatic and over the top and, crazy stuff. But I had just found out about this person. I actually wasn't aware that I had years ago been introduced to this particular person in a series. I'm not going to tell you what the series is because I don't want to give away who I'm referring to. So when this reveal happened, I was thinking to myself, oh, that's like that person. Kind of like that person in real life that had something sort of the same happening. So the reveal, the twist didn't shock me as much as it probably shocked a lot of other people going into it not knowing anything. Then another reason that I wasn't completely shocked is because while I was watching the movie, I had done some Googling or Binging or whatever. I'd done some searches online to find out who is the actor that is playing a particular character in here. And when I saw who the actor was, I was like, wait, what? What? Why? And then when the twist happened, it became completely clear as to why this particular person was playing this particular character. So as a whole, I really enjoyed this film. And I think part of it is because I went into it not really expecting a whole lot, just kind of expecting that, oh, it's going to be your typical horror movie. It's going to be awful. I love horror, but most horror is terrible. And I was feeling like it was going to be like that. But it really ended up not being the case. A lot of this movie was about investigative stuff that was happening. It's kind of like, think of it as sort of like a horror mystery type of thing. The character, gosh, I don't even remember Madison. Her character's name is Madison. And she has this weird stuff that's happening. Like she's able to see these visions of murders, and some memories are coming back to her, or she's being exposed to things about her childhood that she had forgotten. So you can try to guess as to what's going on. And there were things that that were floating around in my brain as to what is the explanation here. And I was hoping that it wasn't going to be this one particular thing that I was concerned it was going to be, and it wasn't that, not exactly. Like I said, I'm trying to be really vague. But the jump scares and stuff, your typical sort of jump scary horror thing, but I just felt like this was a smarter horror movie, one of the smarter horror movies that I've seen in a while. The acting wasn't necessarily absolutely wonderful. I really don't feel like the main actress was all that magnificent, to be honest, but she pulled it off well enough. And I think it was the strength of the writing for me, or the story for me, that kind of helped overcome those sort of deficiencies. She and her sister, they have a very close relationship, and her sister's trying to help her and figure out what the heck is going on. So I was about ready to say something, but I decided not to. That's not a really huge spoiler as far as the storyline, but it kind of explains why certain things are going on with the main character. But anyway, so there's this investigation going on, and little by little you start to see things being revealed. And for the first half, you're like, what the heck? And this makes no sense. And it can't be this because of this. And then why? And then you don't know. And then there's all these pieces, like you just don't know. Why is there this person that's been kidnapped and is hanging attached to like the ceiling of some place? And you don't know who this person is. And then later you find out who the person is. And then little by little, the pieces start to come together. Now, there are some gripes that I do have with the creature type monster bad guy person in here. I don't get some of the powers that they had. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's never really explained. People have mentioned this before without giving a lot of spoilers, but I'll just try to continue to keep it vague. I don't get some of the powers that is going on with this character. It just feels like that is kind of one of those typical horror type things that happens in a horror movie, because that's just one of those things, and so let's throw it in here. There's really no explanation for it, so I don't know. Unless you just want to attach, something more supernatural to. Of course, this is supernatural-ish, but if you want to just attach, well, that's just one of those supernatural things that happens in horror films with, bad creatures and monster bad guy types or whatever. And that honestly is one of the main issues I had with it. It's very over the top with a lot of the with the main reveal that happens. Like, holy cow, what the heck, that's crazy. And yet at the same time, I kind of feel like how Chris Stuckman did. It was like, I don't care, I love it anyway. It's insane, it's ridiculous, it's over the top. But the way it was put together, in my opinion, was so well done that I could overlook a lot of that, and I really didn't mind it at all. As far as, like, the issues I have with it weren't enough to overtake my enjoyment of it, which was on up there. I mean, I have not been able to stop thinking about this movie since I saw it. And I want to talk about it with people that have seen it, but there's not a huge amount of people that have seen it yet. And so far, at least one person that has seen it, that I was highly recommending it to them on my Discord channel, actually. I'll try to remember to put a link up in the video. He ended up watching it and he wasn't as impressed as me. So, and I get why some people don't like it. Honestly, I do get it. And like I said, that's why I kind of went into it not quite sure, because I was like, oh, I don't know. But I kept remembering that there were people that I know of on YouTube who liked it, and I'm very similar to, or my appreciation for certain films is very similar, not completely, but still. So I went into it with an open mind. I'm not saying that people that didn't enjoy it went into it with a closed mind. I'm just saying that I went into it with no expectation at all, and I came away very happy with the end result. I think maybe some people, I've been seeing this sort of floating around in discussion about it, that some people might have gone into this with the expectation that it was going to be like The Conjuring type of thing, and it's not at all. And I believe I heard also that James Wan was warning, look, this is not The Conjuring. Don't go into this thinking that that's what it is. So I didn't go in there with that expectation either. So anyway, it's not The Conjuring. It's a James Wan film, but not The Conjuring. There was something else I was going to mention. I forgot what it was. Shoot. Well, dang it. Oh, I think it was just, I was going to go into some more detail. There's the main character, I did touch on this earlier, she's seeing, like here, she's seeing a vision of a killing happening, and she can't explain it. She doesn't know why it's going on. She doesn't know who the people are that are being killed. And there's suspicion around her because there's all these things that kind of point to her, but at the same time, it's like, well, no, not, how can that be? That can't be possible. And so, like I said, the twist kind of explains pretty much all of those things. And I just found it smart writing, and I appreciated the hell out of it, despite whatever flaws I saw in the movie. As a whole, it was one of the better horror movies that I've seen in a long time. And I've seen a crap ton of horror films, and like I've said many times, most of them are terrible, but I still enjoy watching them. And I really enjoy it when I come across a horror film that's got some actually decent writing, solid storytelling, and in my opinion, Malignant's one of those things. So if you've seen it, what are your thoughts? Do you hate it? Or do you enjoy it? Or are you just kind of meh about it? Do you feel like it was kind of overhyped? Do you feel like it was underhyped? Do you feel like James Wan was like, what the heck were you doing, James? But as a whole, I liked it. And now I'm really feeling like I want to go back and check out more of his movies that I haven't seen. Now, I've seen several of his films. I saw Saw. I watched Saw years ago, and I enjoyed it up until then the end happened, and I hated the ending. I was like, oh gosh, this is terrible. But the story still as a whole was quite well done. Now, I'm not really into a lot of the sequels. I don't really watch the sequels. I've seen bits and pieces of them in passing, but I think the first one is the only one I watched to completion. So it was well done to a great extent. It was just that ending, you know, that typical type of horror ending that I was like, eh. But I know I've enjoyed the Conjuring movies. I even enjoyed the third Conjuring movie. I made a video about it, a review about it. And now I'm just curious to find out if there's any other films he's directed I haven't seen, because like I mentioned in a review that I did right before this for Cop Shop, now his name is branded in my brain as a director that for the most part I have enjoyed their work. So now I'm curious to see what else of his I can consume and compare it to the different films of his that I've seen that I've enjoyed. So anyway, okay, I think that's it. Can't think of anything more to say about Malignant. I am actually wanting to rewatch this again. I want to show it to my kids, see what they think about it. I have a feeling my daughter will be like, what? What? I think a lot of people were feeling that way. But even people that were feeling that way, a lot of them really still loved it, even though it was just so insane and crazy, just out there and everything. But okay, that's it. What are your thoughts on Malignant if you've seen it? And I'm going to wrap this up. Later, guys.